neglected and abandoned children, introducing it to them at an early age. And then the second one is also many abused children in the psychiatric center, and so we just started that last week. Quickly, some of the goals of our program is develop a lifelong passion for learning, literacy skills, decision-making, problem-solving, empathy. By playing another character, they're able to put themselves in other shoes, nurture desire to help others, increase self-esteem, positive self-image, take responsibility for the crimes committed, and just day-to-day personal responsibility. Become a responsible member of a group, learn tolerance, peaceful resolution of conflict, and relate the themes of Shakespeare to their life and then to society at large. Lastly, and most importantly, particularly for our juveniles and young adults, is return to society as a contributing member, because they will actually get that chance. The national recidivism average is 67%, so about 67% of those that get out of prison are going to come back with new crimes. Kentucky has a really good rate, 29.5% will reoffend and come back. We keep track of our recidivism over 18 years, so our 18-year recidivism rate is just 6.4%. We've only had 4 guys out of 62 that we've sent home to reoffend with new crimes, so we know it's working. The juvenile program is a little trickier to be able to track them because of laws. We can't track them because they're juveniles and the record's sealed, but we are able to see that most recently 94% of them improved their grades while they were in our program during the 8 weeks, 50-hour program. 70% less critical incidents, that's violence on other juvenile inmates, while they were in our program. So we know it is working. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time may play many parts, his act being 7 ages. At first the infant mewling and puking in the nurse's arms, and then the schoolboy with shining morning face, with satchel, creeping like snail, unwillingly to school. So I'm not just dealing with reluctant readers, I'm dealing with aggressive, potentially violent population. Most recently, I went into work with 35 of the total juvenile participants at this facility. And out of that, after introducing everybody in an hour session, 28 volunteered to do it. All of our programs, they self-select. So where to begin? The very first thing when I come in to set the stage, I always try to remember, everybody wants respect and attention. 2 things. I need to create a safe circle, and remember, respect and attention. I know that authenticity and honesty when I'm talking to them, eye to eye, 100% of the time, is what is going to work. I remember all voices are heard. We always sit in a circle. Circle's the strongest structure. We can see each other. And I set up these boundaries. I don't call them rules, but whenever I form a new circle, I set up these boundaries. Bring 100%, presume welcome, believe that it is possible to emerge more refreshed, less burdened, and more surprised when you leave. And you always see this with these 14 and 15-year-old boys, and they look like grown men, 10 years older than they are. And by the time we leave the session, they're smiling, and they look like a child, which is what they are. They haven't had the opportunity to do that. There's always invitation, never invasion, always opportunity, never demand. Our programs, they must choose to be there. They must self-select. I was telling Jay that we started a new program at the psychiatric center, and to get in there, we had to make it mandatory. And this was probably the most intense first session I've ever had. Chairs thrown, expletives, I don't want to do this. Once they realized we weren't going to give up on them, they finally gave into the program. But other than that program, which will not stay that way, it's all self-select, voluntary. Be open to learning from each other. When the going gets tough, turn to wonder, listen to the silence, speak for yourself, which is huge with the juveniles. Observe confidentiality. What happens in the circle stays in the circle. And then after doing 6 years of juvenile offender work, I had to add these last 4. Respect each other's personal space, personal boundaries. Don't speak behind somebody's back. Don't pull somebody down. Help to lift them. And this above all, to thine own self be true. And I make sure we display the goals. So we're always reflecting back. Why are we here? What are the boundaries? They're not rules, they're boundaries. And then I'll have them write them in their own words. And this was one of the students. Just remembering, why are we there? What's the core principle of this program? When I approach this work, as I said, eye-to-eye approach with sympathy, sympathetic responding. And my goal when I go in to start the program is to find what motivates them, what excites them. Encouraging positive and legal choices. What excites you? What do you want to do? Okay, you want to make money. So how can we do that positively? And I can see a light bulb. When I tell the student, you know, you can do that. Yes, you can do that. This light bulb goes on. And we'll spend a whole day just talking about what do you want to do? What's your goal? Where do you want to be in 5, 10 years? And it's exciting to see that bulb go on when I say, yes, you can be a veterinarian. That's a great idea. And some of the battles that we have are, I've heard staff before when I encourage a kid to do something, say, psh, you're not going to be a doctor, you're not going to be, so as much positivity that I can keep in that circle, in that bubble, that whatever they have to deal with when they leave there, they have to deal with it, but keeping that positivity. Relationship, getting to know in a non-academic setting. We don't have too much of that opportunity, but it's that when they're coming in and when they're leaving, asking them how their day is, finding out what music they like, trying to immerse myself in their world as much as I can, because they don't get that. They get negated a lot. As an improviser, when you do improv acting, the number 1 rule is always say yes to your partner. It's kind of like teaching for me when I'm teaching or directing. Find that positive thing, say yes, encourage it, don't negate. Listen and be ready to adapt. This was something I had to learn doing this work. When I first started, I have an outline, and this is how everything's going to go, this is how the year is going to go, and I will direct the play, blah, 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 blah. And then, we're a week out in performance and somebody gets shipped to another prison, or somebody goes to the hole, or somebody. Being ready to riff on what excites them. That's kind of how we started into a multidisciplinary arts program. The boys used to just do scenes. And 3 years ago, one of the students said, could I paint something? I've never painted, I draw, but could I paint something of Merchant of Venice? I thought, well, sure, let me buy you a couple canvases, and here's some paint. And out of that came a multidisciplinary program, and now I have art therapists who come in and facilitate that work. And now they do their whole set, and they do some costume pieces. So that's where the music, these are all at the prison. Inmates create all the music. And hey, you want to do music? Good, go with that, as much as I can encourage them. Then they have group ownership. Being aware of the energy I'm bringing into the space, trying to check my day and my baggage from another program or stress at the door, because I'm working in an intensely negative environment, and it's just exponential. They start to feed off of it. So as much as I can check my day at the door, and the same thing is being aware of the energy that I'm walking into. I can't control that it's a Tuesday, and that's the day that the juveniles find out if they're moving a level, and the energy is just shot for the day. And it took me a while of realizing that, okay, if I'm there on a Tuesday, I know it's going to be, so maybe I'm going to do some fun exercises, or just trying to be aware of that, and not trying to force a square peg into a round hole. Every day when I come into the prison, they say, remember, inmates are models of your behavior, and I always try to remember that. And we're not rehabilitating them, we're habilitating them, because a lot of them don't have models of what appropriate behavior is, or appropriate ways to express emotion. So I always try to remember that, but they're always looking at me to see how I'm going to react when I'm handling stress, or when I'm happy, or any emotion. Very first thing when I start a residency with juveniles or adults is to put the ball into their court. Okay, we're making history, guys. We've been doing Shakespeare for 400 years. I don't care how people have done it for 400 years. I don't want you to do Shakespeare how they've done it for 400 years. I empower them to take ownership. This is our thing, and it's only going to be as special as we choose to make that. And there you can see that's kind of the set stuff. What are we going to do? Okay, you guys do the set. By putting the ball in their court, they have ownership, pride. I'm working also in an environment where they're not allowed to make choices for themselves. So we take away their ability to make choices, then we send them back to society, and we expect them to be able to make choices in a different way that what got them in there. So as many chances as I can. Okay, which exercise do we want to do? Directing the play. It's not directing, telling them where to go, it's facilitating. So we're trying to harness their impulses in a safe circle and get them to have appropriate impulses based on the play. And so they're, hopefully, by the time they get through our program, they're empowered to make decisions on their own a little bit better. Ensemble responsibility. When things don't go well, and I'm trying to force that square peg into the hole, I'll just step back, let it go, and we'll sit down and we'll constantly reflect, address, why didn't that work? As opposed to me telling them why it didn't work, I'll have them reflect and take responsibility for that. Empower to embrace the unknown. When I first started this, the principal said to me, none of these kids have ever failed at being a Shakespeare actor before. It's the undiscovered country, And I try to embrace that unknown, that we have a level playing field. Nobody has any knowledge of Shakespeare, or they have very little knowledge. Nobody's been in a play before. Many have not seen a play. So nobody's ever told them they can't do it. They've never failed at it before. So I'm trying to embrace that. There's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. So the approach to the work. Very first thing we do is break down the text. And I have a little clip here of one of our prison rehearsals breaking down the text. Oh, I didn't think about audio. As I said, I'm ready to adapt if the sound doesn't work. When we first get a piece of text, I'll just kind of jump to the next section. The very first thing we do is break it down. So I spend a lot of